And joining us now is Mark Levy, veteran journalist of the Israel scene. Mark, we had a protest that took place yesterday in the Knesset. You and I have both been covering the Israeli scene for 30, 40 years. Have you ever seen a protest of that magnitude?
I never have, Steve, probably because there's never been one like this. This is by far, when you take the last 3 weeks together, by far the largest protest in Israel's history, with hundreds of thousands of people taking part. It means that it's something that can't be ignored, even if you're in favor of the reforms, the judicial reforms that are being proposed, or even if you're against them. You can't ignore the size of this protest. You can't ignore what it means politically, and that is why I have a certain amount of optimism that this will be worked out.
And the people came from all over the country. It seemed like they traveled for hours from Kiryat Shmona and to Eilat.
Yes, the streets and the highways were jammed. The trains were overflowing. People really wanted to get into this, and it's interesting to point out that even in the days of the Lebanon War, when Peace Now was active, you didn't have these repeated huge protests, one week after another. And in this case, you have it, and there's no sign that it's going to slow down anytime soon.
Justice Minister Levine, it seemed for a very short time like we might get to talks. Yesterday he said that he's ready to come to the president's house. He invited the opposition to join him there. But the opposition is saying they didn't pause the process even for a second. We're not going to come. What's the way out? Is there a way out?
There is a way out. I mean, they did postpone the first vote in the Knesset. And it's so important to point out that the bill has to pass 3 votes, 1 and then 2 together. You have a time to deal with this. They postponed the first reading, the first vote for 7 days. It'll be on Monday. That gives 6 days for them to climb down from their high perches. And I believe that they will, simply because of the size of these protests and what they mean for the country.
Well, you know, in the many years that I've been a journalist, you know, there are issues that come up, and you try to find experts to discuss them. In this case, I must say, it's really hard to find experts to support the government's side. Have you ever seen anything like this?
I have. There have been indefensible positions put forward by governments practically every couple of years. It is difficult but not impossible to find someone to support this. But they don't support it necessarily from a judicial point of view. They support it from a political or an existential point of view. We really do have a problem with the judicial system in this country. We have had it for decades. For example, even the small thing about if you have a trial, it can be postponed for years because there aren't enough judges. Then you have a Supreme Court that is almost all Ashkenazi, European descent, one Arab, one or two non-European. That's just not proper in the 21st century. This should have been dealt with years ago. I won't get into why it wasn't, but the fact is it should have been dealt with years ago. And the longer you put it off, the more extreme the solutions are going to be, and that's what we're faced with today.
You and I are veteran journalists, as I've said before. And it seems like all the press is also on one side of this issue. Have we been sort of co-opted, the press in general, co-opted to the side of the opposition in this case?
Talking about the press is a whole other subject for me. I ran away from daily journalism 9 years ago because of the way it was developing, and I couldn't really take it anymore. I even exiled myself to Cairo for 2 years to try to escape it and couldn't. Yes, absolutely. I saw a commentator on television last night start out her remarks, which is to say, this is how she planned, it didn't slip out, started out her remarks by, well, now it's clear we're never going to have an agreement with the Palestinians because we're always right. And then she went into her commentary against judicial reform. Now, excuse me, folks, in the journalism I was brought up in and you were brought up in, you just don't do that. Even if you believe it, you don't put it out in public. And it just goes to show that, in fact, we have a serious problem with journalism in this country. There are, of course, the right-wing papers and the left-wing papers. Where is the paper? Where is the news channel that doesn't take a side. I think I'm on it now.
Well, I hope so. Mark Levy, thank you so much for being with us. And look, I'm hoping myself that things will at least calm down. Isn't it shocking to you to hear some of the extreme comments from the opponents that we've heard, from the mayor of Tel Aviv yesterday and some of the others? Are they exaggerating just a little bit?
They're going way overboard. They're feeling the power going to their head. It's true. But I think it's more important to emphasize that the vast majority of people who are demonstrating are not advocating violence or advocating assassination. People are getting carried away on both sides, and this is something we'll have to get over.